Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the another episode of reaction videos. As usual, we have our three guests in our studios today, and we will be showing them three short clips that have been circulating on social media and that portrays the actual and the real news of Pakistan, what's happening in Pakistan, and the news that you won't find on the mainstream media. Today in the studios, we have with us Masif, Saman, and Fedi. And thank you so much for taking time out and welcome to our show. Without further ado, we're going to go straight to our first video. Studio, can we have our first video, please?
Plenty to say about corrupt leaders, and people do say that it's a trademark of Pakistan politicians. How do we know you're not going to be the same?
There are no guarantees. No one can sort of sign a piece of paper and saying, I'll be very straight. But the basic thing is I never needed to go into politics. I mean, life for me is much easier outside politics. I don't really have to do anything in life because of whatever I've achieved before, that I can live a very comfortable life. That's number one. Number two, if I have wanted to get into power for the sake of power, then for 20 years I've been given offers to join various governments. And in 2002, I was actually offered the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So really, if I had to, if my motives were to get into power for the sake of power and for self-interest, then those doors were always open to me, given my position in my country. I do believe that the time has now come for the battle for Pakistan. We are rapidly reaching a place where we could reach the point of no return. So people like us who want to live and die in Pakistan, I can't think of living anywhere else. We have no option but to fight for our country.
Another trademark of Pakistan's political leaders, they have a short life expectancy.
As a Muslim, do I believe that I have control over my death? As if I can, avoid death by taking on some other profession. It's my belief system that when the time comes to go, then, something will become an excuse, whether it's cancer or a bullet, it doesn't matter. So really, I have no fear of dying.
Imran Khan, thank you very much.
That was our first clip, and now we'll go to Saman. And what do you say about the clip that you've seen?
Thank you, Mavish. I have the first thing that I caught was I was offered prime ministership, which he did not take, and that has been the main issue with in Pakistani politics. You are offered seats and then the seats are taken away. The whole sham of democracy is exposed in that one phrase that he said, or that one sentence that he said, I was offered the prime ministership. And then that speaks of Imran Khan himself, his values, and what he sees for Pakistan. He refused that, and which shows what he's been saying all along, that he was never here for money or for power, and we're seeing that right now as well. He could have taken a deal. He could have left the country like so many other people did. But for him, his main thing is his faith, his iman, and the power of his convictions. He's a man who stands by his convictions, he stands with his beliefs. And that's what I have seen with him for the past 27 years since he's entered politics. I have been following him since 2014, 2013, and I haven't seen a change in his stance. And that is what I support. So that's exactly what I saw in that clip as well.
Thank you so much, Saman. And that's exactly how it is, that what he said 27 years ago, he's still standing by to what he said back then. Fedi.
As a non-Muslim and being from Colombia, South America, seeing a man in politics who is so passionate about his people and the mission that he has to accomplish for people and country is fascinating. And the fact that it is trying to be trivialized and criminalized is mind blowing. It is very, very similar to a political climate that we have in Colombia, where we have a problem with terrorism and narco trafficking trying to influence the country, but not having political leaders with such strong conviction and character who refuse to bow to the terrorism, who refuse to deal with the cartels. And having a man like Mr. Khan is essential to the vitality of one's country.
Beautifully put, Fedi. I couldn't agree with you more. In certain countries, who struggle for their survival and their, improvement and their, betterment, politics has always been the game for corrupts. So we have lived with a culture of complaining about that corruption, but then out comes a man who takes a stand for it, and he's been fighting for it for the past 27 years, and the mafia are trying to survive at this point by suppressing him and his supporters. So that's summing up what's been happening in Pakistan.
Exactly.
So that was beautifully summed up. We'll go to Wasif next.
Khan Saab, as he said in his many speeches, that I was born free. When I was born free. I refused to be a slave. I refused to be dictated by anybody and everybody. So what he doesn't need to be in power to his, like he said in his video, I was offered the PMship in 2002, but I refused to be dictated. I'm a free person. So what he's trying to change the mindset, not just for himself, for the people of Pakistan, to make their lives better. That's his prerogative. That's his only mission, for them to know the difference between right and wrong, for them to make the choice which is right and which is wrong.
Thank you so much, Wasif. So beautifully summed up by all three of you, and taking from what you have said, I absolutely agree with the part that someone said that what he said 27 years back, he stepped into politics for his people. That was his main mission. His mission was not being in power. His mission was not making money, because he was already, his mission was not being famous, because he was already enjoying those. He saw he saw his country, his people struggling, and then he became the first man to take a step for the betterment, for the betterment of that struggling country. And now he's dealing with the entire corrupt mafia. So we'll go to our next video. Studios, can we have our next video, please?
अगर मैं हुकूमत में होऊंगा, मेरा काम है पाकिस्तानियों की जान और माल की हिफाजत करना। पहले तो मैं समझता हूं कि ओबामा को मैं उसे कन्विंस करूंगा कि हम ड्रोन अटैक्स ना आपके फायदे में ना हमारे फायदे में, और हम नहीं करने देंगे। पहले तो वो रुक जाएंगे, नहीं तो फिर यूएन में जाऊंगा। तो ये बिल्कुल सारे ह्यूमैनिटेरियन लॉज की वायलेशन है, ये सारी सॉवरेनिटी की लॉज की वायलेशन है, इजाजत नहीं देंगे। और उसके बाद फिर पीएफ को ऑर्डर देंगे कि गिराओ। You will engage in a war with a superpower. वॉर कैसे है? अपने मुल्क में अपने शहरियों की जान बचाना वॉर कैसे हो गई? 2008 और 2018 के दरमियान में 400 ड्रोन अटैक हुए पाकिस्तान के ऊपर। आप बताएं, जब से इमरान खान वजीर आजम बने कोई ड्रोन अटैक हुआ है? नहीं हुआ। और मैं आज अब सबके सामने कहता हूं कि कभी किसी ने कोशिश की ड्रोन अटैक करने की? मैं पाकिस्तान की एयरफोर्स को कहूंगा कि वो ड्रोन को नीचे गिरा दे। अगर आपका ख्याल है कि मैं अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनूं और मैं ये कहूं अच्छा जी मैं इनको ड्रोन मारूंगी तो जंग हो जाएगी, ये मैं डिजर्व नहीं करता प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनने का। अगर मैं इतना बुज़दिल हूं, मैं आपको यकीन दिलाता हूं, जिस दिन पाकिस्तान की डेमोक्रेटिक इलेक्टेड पब्लिक मैंडेट वाली गवर्नमेंट ने कह दिया कि हम आपको इजाजत नहीं देते, वो नहीं करेंगे। कार्ल लेवन ने ओपन सेनेट की हेयरिंग कमेटी में पूछा एडमिरल मलिक से कि अगर पाकिस्तानी गवर्नमेंट मजम्मत कर रही है और नहीं चाहती, अब क्यों ड्रोन अटैक्स कर रहे हैं?
मलन ने ओपन हेयरिंग में प्रेस बैठी हुई है, उसने कहा पाकिस्तानी गवर्नमेंट ने हमें इजाजत दी हुई है। उसने आगे से क्या कहा? उसने कहा पाकिस्तानी गवर्नमेंट क्यों इतनी दौड़ ली है, क्यों नहीं सच बोलती अपने लोगों से? तो ये सारा जो ड्रामा हो रहा है ये इनकी इजाजत से हो रहा है, क्योंकि वही तो लेके आए हैं इनको। मैं आपको गारंटी करता हूं, जिस वक्त हमने उनको कहा, मैं 100% आपको कहता हूं कि वो नहीं करेंगे ड्रोन अटैक। अमन में उनके साथ दोस्ती, जंग में उनके साथ बिल्कुल हमारा कोई साथ नहीं होगा।
हम कोई किसी से दुश्मनी नहीं चाहते, हम सबसे दोस्ती चाहते हैं। हमारी रूस से भी दोस्ती है, हमारी अमेरिका से भी दोस्ती है, हमारी चाइना से भी दोस्ती है, यूरोप से भी है। हम किसी कैंप में नहीं हैं।
You would have to give over territory in Pakistan to the Taliban.
Absolutely not.
Do you allow the American government to have CIA here in Pakistan to conduct cross-border counter-terrorism missions against Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or the Taliban?
Absolutely not.
So you've seen a very important clip of Imran Khan Saab's tenure, and we'll go to our first guest for their opinion. Wasif, what would you say about this clip?
Well, he stood by his word throughout his political career. Absolutely not. That's what hurts them, because he's the first prime minister, for as long as I can remember, who's always looked after his people and his country. He's always looked for the betterment of his country. I'm 40 plus. In my lifetime, I have not seen a prime minister who cares so much about his country other than Khan Sir. That's why I adore him. I love him.
Thank you so much, Wasif. And I absolutely agree with what you've said, that the reason for him being in power is the people of Pakistan and their safety and their protection. So what he said back into 2012, he stood by his word. So that's where and absolutely not is where the whole journey started. And he still is. I'm sure everyone will agree that had he been asked the same question today, his answer would still be absolutely not. He is the man who stands for peace. With that, we'll go next to Saman.
Thank you, Mavish. So I'm gonna first agree with what Vasif said. He is a man of his word. He's a man of his convictions. Secondly, when I was watching the first part of the clip, my initial thought was, here comes that infamous absolutely not. His stance has not changed, and we have seen that happening right from President Musharraf's time, when Imran Khan was still, he was in opposition. He was actually even put in jail for that, because he did not believe that the government should be, playing both sides of the field. Our people were dying. Our people are the former tribal areas, the former Fatah which is now under KP. They saw some extreme devastation. And what is a government if a government cannot protect its own citizens' rights, its own citizens' well-being, its own citizens' lives? And that is what Imran Khan's, his thing was right from the beginning until like now. He's never said that he wants to be in a fight with the country or he disagrees with the country. His whole thing is, my people come first. I want to be friends with everybody when it comes to peace, but when it comes to wars, I do not want to be a part of a quad or a part of a bloc, because for me or for any prime minister, for any government, it's important that their own people and their well-being comes first. And that is exactly what he's saying, and which is why the people want to elect him in. That is what any government representative should do. Go with the people's, his mandate's wishes. Nobody in Pakistan wants to see those drone strikes. Nobody wants all those hundreds and thousands of civilians dead, because this is not our war. Why should we pay the price for it? And that is exactly what he's been saying all along, be it 2012, 2022, or even before that.
Thank you so much, Saman. And beautifully said, and I agree with you that he's a man of his word. And it's the responsibility in a democratic country. It's the responsibility of the head of the state, the safety of his country and his people. And also, in a democratic country, the main way a democracy can sustain is to gain confidence of its people by providing them with the security, basic human rights, and that can only happen when there is rule of law in a country. So we'll go to Fedi Yuna.
For me, I had no idea that Pakistan, the government, would use drone strikes against its own people. It's incomprehensible to me. That is something that the Americans would do. That is not anything that I would ever expect to hear. To me, that's an international crisis. That is, I can't even begin to imagine if the Colombian government did that to our people. I just, I can't even imagine the political climate in which those type of things are able to happen. This man obviously needs to be in power. This man has conviction and has the best interest of his country in his heart and knows what needs to be done to secure this nation.
Thank you so much, Fedi, and couldn't agree with you more on this. That he actually is the person who's standing for democracy and as a symbol of democracy at the moment. He wants peace for his country. He wants peace in his land. He wants his land to prosper. He wants his people to prosper, and that's exactly what he's fighting for. But then there are forces that do not want him to do, and all he's asking for is peace. And if there is peace in one region, it's gonna the peace is usually gonna spread to the surrounding territories as well. And it's beyond comprehension that why would anyone go against someone who wants all he wants is peace and for his country to prosper. So
Exactly.
having that said, studios, can we go to our third video, please?
Every year, billions of dollars leave the poorer countries and go towards rich countries. Billions of dollars siphoned off by the ruling elites of the developing world. And they find their way into Western bank accounts, offshore accounts, tax havens, expensive properties hidden behind companies bought in Western capitals. Mr. President, this is devastating the developing world. This is causing more poverty, debts. It's impoverishing the developing world. The difference between rich and poor countries is growing because of this. Money laundering, which happens because money leaves the poorer countries into rich countries, is not treated the same as, for instance, money from drugs or terror financing. The seriousness which terror financing and money from drugs, the way it is treated, it's not the same. The way the poor countries are being plundered by their elites. It's not happening. In my country, when I took charge of our government a year back, in the 10 years preceding that, our total debt went up 4 times. The debt we had accumulated in 60 years, just in 10 years, it went up 4 times. As a result, the total revenue we collected in 1 year, half of it went into debt servicing. How are we going to spend money on our human beings, 220 million people, when half the money is going into debt servicing? Because our country was plundered by the elites, the ruling elite.
So this was our third video clip from his Imran Khan's address in United Nations General Assembly, and we'll go to Fedi. You first this time.
Fiscal mismanagement seems to be a problem in developing countries such as Pakistan and Colombia. We face many of the same socioeconomic problems that plague the developing world, with corruption, but mainly governmental mismanagement of funds. And it absolutely prevents the rest of the country and the population from being able to grow and develop with the rest of the world. When you have political uh, ambassadorships to the United States, to Europe, Russia, and you have these quintessential relationships that have lasted quite some time that involve quite a bit of international financial aid to Pakistan, making sure that that money is appropriately allocated to the resources in which it was deemed essential to begin with. It can't be overlooked, it can't be overstressed, and it can't be mismanaged, because when that happens, we're looking at a 10-year window in which Pakistan's debt has increased, but it will become even worse if it is not managed, and if the brakes aren't put on the misallocation of funds and the corruption is not fought from within, because that will corrode society, as we've seen in many other developing worlds, such as what's happening in Haiti right now. Mismanagement of funds absolutely prevents the rest of the society from growing.
Thank you so much, Betty. And I absolutely agree that mismanagement of funds, power in the wrong hand, and corrupt politics is the main cause that why societies and the countries do not prosper in current days and time. So we do need to fix the problem from within, from its root, so that we can move forward. Because yes, that's the absolute state that we, unfortunate and sad state of the Pakistan at the moment, that we do have the debts on the country is something that has to be dealt with. And even though we do have politicians that have been ruling the country or the region for decades now, they've been handed over government, they've been handed over the power in inheritance, but they're still unable to make any improvements.
Right.
So yes, problem needs to be fixed from the roots, from within, and money matters, and the misallocation of funds is one of the root cause of that. So with that, we'll go to Suman next. Your thoughts, Suman?
Thank you, Mavish. See, Tehreek-e-Insaf, the Movement for Justice, that is the name of his political party. He came up with this over 27 years ago, right? Justice is what this man has been striving for, justice for his people. This is what he's been fighting for. He has been saying that the rich are becoming richer, the poor are becoming poorer, whether it's like on a micro level, on the country level, or it's on a more macro level, because as Fede said as well, that's what's happening with almost all third world countries at this point, that our rulers are corrupt. They, when they give government contracts, or through various channels, they accumulate wealth, whether they take their cuts from the tax that's given to them or the foreign aid even that comes to them. That money that should have actually gone into the development of the country is then shipped abroad in overseas accounts, in safe havens abroad. The people of the country and the country itself keeps going poorer. And then what happens is that you need aid to keep your country moving, and then tax those poor people even more. And then that money, again, a bit of it is sent back to pay back the debts, and the rest of it is once again taken up by the powerful elite, sent into their offshore tax havens, offshore havens or the corruption. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. We're seeing that when it comes to the first world countries versus the third world countries. We're seeing that into, like, the powerful elite, the rich people, the top 1% inside Pakistan, and then the poor people who right now are walking around the streets with their electricity bills in their hands because they cannot afford to pay the bills. During Pakistan, during Tehreek Insaf's rules, there were constantly TV shows on how expensive sugar was getting, and people couldn't afford it. Now it's impossibly high. It's the rate of inflation has gone like drastically up. People cannot afford flour, which they need. Bread is the staple for Pakistan. They cannot afford that. They cannot afford sugar. They cannot afford to pay electricity. Why? Because the price of the dollar keeps going higher. It has now touched almost 300. So everything that is dependent on the dollar, be it gas, petrol, be it be it electricity, all of that is becoming unaffordable for the people of Pakistan. So what's going to happen next is, like, do they expect the people of Pakistan to become cavemen and start living in caves because they cannot afford electricity? And that, the poor man, the average Pakistani person, is what Imran Khan has been fighting for, be it on a national level or in the international level, as we saw him talk at the Younger.
Absolutely, absolutely, Saman. That's exactly what's been happening in Pakistan, and that's exactly sad state of affairs that due to inflation, people have now they're even they're, it's been in the news that people have started committing suicide because they cannot afford to provide for their families. Um, Vasif, what would you say about this clip?
Yeah, it's really sad. It's your Zardaris, your Sharifs, your Mia Manshas, your barrier town guy, what's his name, Malik Riaz. They have ripped the country apart. They've only cared about themselves. Not a single one of them have any empathy for the people of Pakistan. Like someone just said, that 182 rupees per kilo for sugar is just ridiculous. Like, how is a poor man supposed to survive? How are you supposed to make ends meet? How long is this gonna go on for? There's only so much a common man can take. Like, there are suicide reports. We only get to see only bits of it on social media, but we don't have an actual figure. So something's gotta give. This is what Khan Saab is fighting for. Fred said that developing countries, there are corruption everywhere. But the difference between Pakistan and those third world countries is that the judicial system doesn't exist in Pakistan. India is a third world country too, but their judicial system is so strong. That's why they've become such a strong country. Pakistan needs to start all over again, and it needs to happen quick, as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, Vasif. And that's a very good point that you have brought forward, that both of the countries, Pakistan and India, they got independence at the same time. And there's a huge difference between the strength of the currency and the rule of law. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today and your feedback and all these. And thank you so much, studios, for putting these three clips together, because these three clips not only sums up the journey of Imran Khan Saab's political career, but what has been it's the actual depiction of what's been going on in Pakistan and what is the root cause of the problems that Pakistan is facing as a third world country at the moment. There is no rule of law. Corruption needs to be fixed from its roots. The provision of basic necessities for its people in a democratic country is to be provided by the government, and the in a democratic country, governments can only sustain if the leader or the ruler can gain the confidence of its people. And that's what Imran Khan has done. He's been fair to his people. He's been open about things. He's been open about his views about his people and how his country can prosper with the peace in the land, and not getting indulged into unnecessary wars and drone attack, so that his people, with the provision of basic necessities, can can put their can give their 100% of their energy. Pakistan is a land of brain. Pakistan is a land of a huge potential, and Pakistan is the region that is blessed by God as well, because the land is fertile, the land is loaded with so much of the natural resources. We need to work on those rather than indulging into war and, disrupting peace in that region. We want to focus on ourselves, and that's all what Pakistan demands. That's all what Khasab is standing for. That's all we all as a Pakistani would like to see in Pakistan. And let's hope sanity will prevail, and those forces who are acting against him would gain some sense, and then let the peace rule the region, and let Pakistan prosper. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out. And as for our viewers, if you would like to be a part of our show, please comment under this video, and we would love to have you and would love to hear from you in one of our upcoming episodes. Thank you so much, and Pakistan Zindabad.